everyone. Good morning or good evening. Welcome to the show. This is Psycho Silver. My name is Jerome. I do hope that today you're counting your wealth in ounces. It's never been more important. And also that you're holding your word, especially to yourself. Welcome to my show. This is a news show. I cover macroeconomics. I cover what I call the dark psychology of money. Why the bottom 50% of people only have 2% of the wealth, and why it's going to stay that way. And the psychological aspects therein, the manipulation with the bankers wanting to turn us all into permanent renters, living paycheck to paycheck, and willing to go along with any agenda that is presented to us to acquire the basic necessities of life. We're covering anything that is interesting, and especially in the realm of geopolitics and how it can impact us all the way down to the local level. Geopolitics all the way down to local politics and how that affects your wallet. So I do appreciate you for joining me, and we're just going to jump right in. All right, I got a whole bunch of interesting stuff for us this evening. But before we jump into all the cool tweets and posts on Reddit and articles, I did want to show you this real quick so that we can orient ourselves. There's a lot of fear porn about a debt collapse, a stock market collapse, pensions and 401ks in Europe, and what the IMF called cascading shocks. Not to mention the possibility of war, bringing Russia and China into that, all that possible. But what worries me the most is the energy situation. We do see here that we've been on a downtrend in the energy for some months now after tapping that 120 mark twice. And this is what I've told people that I know that are interested in listening to this sort of stuff. If energy sustains at $120 a barrel in oil, that's a life-changing event. If it goes to 140, it's catastrophic. And it's not completely unlike the interest rates. When it's sufficiently expensive to carry debt or sufficiently expensive to fuel your economy, bad things happen. It starts to shut businesses down. It shuts down economic activity, and people's lives change. It affects everything from food to travel to homes. Like, there's not one area of your life that won't be touched if we see energy get super expensive. And with this downward trend right here, again, what worries me is that we've tapped into our strategic reserves. That was the call made by Joe Biden to at least make things more affordable in the short term. But once again, like our politicians are so good at, they are living for the short term. It's like they're an American household living paycheck to paycheck, no savings account. We're tapping the reserves. That'll leave us so vulnerable, very vulnerable without reserves. And then what? And here's the next thing that I needed to show you. Let's just remind ourselves here that we are now dependent on other countries to give us energy because we've decided to stop making our own, and we're tapping our reserves. But you see all these top countries producing here. We're not on the best terms with any of them. These relationships have changed already with China and Russia. We've been at odds. But Saudi Arabia with the petrodollar, we're watching the petrodollar die before our eyes. Not only are they cutting the energy production, which flies in the face of directly what Biden was asking for, but Saudi Arabia, India, Iran, Brazil, they're all going their own way in the sense that we've asked for help, that these nations, these energy rich nations, help us to sanction, ban, embargo, tariff, everything Russian energy and all the things that are produced there. And they're basically telling us no. And not only are they telling us no, but they're expanding their agreements with Russia. They're increasing trade. They're investing in Russia. And it's all but done. Like, the final blow has been dealt, but it's just the fact that they are working hard. All these BRICS countries, and we'll look more at the BRICS later, are working very hard to form their own currency and get off the dollar debt system. And I can't blame them, but it's bad news for you. Next thing I did want to show you here is that the Dow had a really good day. Stocks had a really good day yesterday, up about 550 points. And right here, we're looking at futures. and those are up 434 on the futures market. So a lot of people, again, were expecting a sell-off on the Monday, and we didn't get that. We got the opposite. And all you got to do is visit Wall Street Bets and see people get absolutely torched on their puts against all these stocks here. Let's have a look at bonds. Here we see this is very good depending on how you look at it. The US 10-year Treasury is back under 4%, and it seems like that 4% is a pivotal pain point threshold for how high can we go until bad things start to happen. And also with the UK here, also under 4%. That's good news for them, because it looked like it was about to rip way past 4 anyways, despite the Bank of England capitulating and beginning to buy those bonds to save the pension system. As they said, we had to do it to save the pension system. What I've learned about that is it wasn't so much about saving the pensions as it was about saving the banks. They told you it's about saving the pensions, but it was really about saving the banks, because those are the ones in the direct line of fire if there was cascading defaults, as the IMF calls it, cascading shocks. Let's have a look at gold real quick. Gold and silver. We did it. Gold is still at 1,600, very low. Silver also very low, $18.80. And they did move up with stocks in tandem yesterday. And we'll be talking about silver a whole lot because this is a silver show. But I just wanted to recap what happened in the day. So let's jump into the interesting stuff now. Here, just another thing to orient you. I wanted to remind you that these reverse purchase agreements are in full effect. This little tiny blip down here is supposedly quantitative tightening, or some program to take liquidity out of the system, allegedly. But just a reminder of how crazy this has gone. Up to 9 trillion is the figure that I did see in reverse repo. And basically what that means is they need to inject liquidity into the banks overnight, so there's not overnight failures. And once again, like the IMF said, cascading shocks throughout the system. That's going to be my new tagline, like cascading shocks. That's in the 1 quadrillion debt derivative bubble. That is the worry. That is the threat. Cascading shocks when one default leads to many more. And just a reminder, this program kind of started right here. That little imperceptible blip is where we agreed. They first invented this program, and I do believe they had to write laws and change things around to make that possible, because we did used to practice capitalism, where if a bank failed, they failed, but then they became too big and too important to fail. And so they launched a new program to ensure that these banks stay solvent overnight. Let's get into the Twitter Reddit stuff here. Here is my Twitter account. Please follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be running my show through this account as I go and I forage for all kinds of interesting news every day. I'm going to funnel it through Twitter, which has its advantages because I don't have to have so many tabs open, and it saves it for me, and I can write myself little comments, and it's all saved there nice and tidy on Twitter. But yeah, please follow me on Twitter. Here we have a tweet from the car dealership guy. The dealership guy writes, the average monthly payment for a new car just hit a record high of $738 in September. Here we go again. That is a really high car payment. Holy moly. Let's see what else he wrote underneath this. New vehicle affordability in September was much worse than a year ago, when prices were lower, incentives were higher, and rates were much lower. A reminder, this is for new cars. New and used are in 2 different dimensions right now. Smash the follow button. Let's see what this top comment says. Sold a RAV4 Prime a couple days ago, and their monthly payment was $1,534. As long as she's happy. Good Lord, you should be in jail. The next user writes, you should be in jail. That's fucking. Here we have a tweet from Deso Games, Got a Vision. Please follow this guy on Twitter. He's got an amazing Twitter account. He writes, China will invade Taiwan within 3 years, possibly faster. He writes, as I said before, the semiconductors are the new oil. And what the US did is the equivalent of the US oil embargo on Japan in 1937, while China has the biggest oil reserves on the planet by far. So China's not worried about oil, they're worried about chips. And this is in response to a tweet that said the US government's new chip export controls are wreaking havoc on Chinese chip industry. New rules around US persons are driving an industry-wide decapitation. Does this mean that it's a good time? Like if you want another laptop or like a good PC, you better fucking buy it right now? Is that what that means? All the chips going to the cars now too. And we're supposed to build this whole new smart world, right? Everything's smart. Sounds like a lot of chippage and a lot of silver is going to be needed for all that. Here we have a tweet from JC. JC writes, unpopular opinion, the silver deficit is even greater than that of lithium. We believe the vaults will run completely dry in the next 4 to 6 months. Hashtag silver squeeze. And here he's responding to a tweet about lithium. And look at that chart. That's 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. So that was more than a 5x there. And what he writes is lithium, 537,000 K CNY. Far from the peak demand, yet week on week price escalation is reaching insane levels. 600,000 K CNYT, I don't know what that means, is still in play. Still so many underpriced miners yet to re-rate. Oh, so the lithium price is taken off and there's still some opportunities to scoop up those miners. Interesting. I really believe in investing in real stuff. Miners especially. So important. So important. On to the next thing. Here we have a tweet from SRS Rocco Report. And this is the energy cliff guy. If you want to watch a bunch of scary stuff about the energy cliff, do follow this account. SRS Rocco Report writes, Peru, the second largest producer of silver in the world, peaked in 2017 at 155 million ounces and is down a stunning 30% at 110 million ounces in 2021. Unfortunately, with Peru's silver production 9% year to date, down 9% year to date, the decline continues. And there you do see very visually the output is really far down in the Peru silver mines. And one cool and interesting thing that I do know is that Peru has mined so much silver over the course of history. In the 1600s and the 1700s, they mined so much silver that it was actually the silver that made Spain and Portugal insanely wealthy. Usually people think of them bringing gold back from the Americas, but they brought like 10 times as much silver. And not just because it's the amount, but in actual value, there was just way more silver to be had. And the biggest mines were in Peru. It's always been a silver rich country. And here we had a response to that tweet. Austin Schmitz writes, great visual. I don't think most understand how dire the physical silver supply is. The silver market's different as it's both demand and supply driven compared to demand booms of the past. Another 740K out of the Comex vault today. And that's the latest front, he writes. And here we have an interesting article that I pulled because I really agree with the thesis of this article. This is from the Epoch Times. And it says, be ready for stagflationary crisis, economist Rubini warns. The US and global economies might be embarking on a new era of great stagflation instability, according to famed economist Nouriel Roubini, nicknamed Dr. Doom for correctly predicting the 2008 financial crisis. Roubini, a professor of economics at New York University's Stern School of Business, wrote an opinion piece for Time magazine in which he warned that the inflationary pressures that have popped up worldwide over the past year are unlikely to be a short-term challenge. Okay, here's the good part. He thinks that the shocks, cascading shocks, hitting the economy could originate from the supply side rather than from evolving demand. Yes. Much like what occurred in the 1970s amid two negative oil shocks. When this occurs, energy and production costs skyrocket, resulting in lower economic growth for countries that import food, fuel, triggering an environment of high inflation and possible recession. Yes, so much this. If the response to this negative supply shock is loose monetary and fiscal policy, banks setting low interest rates to encourage borrowing, to prevent the slowdown of growth. You feed the inflation flames by stimulating rather than cooling demand for goods and labor. And then you end up with persistent stagflation, a recession with high inflation. That is exactly what's coming. And I do believe it will originate on the energy side. We're already seeing it. Saudi Arabia, China, India, Brazil, Iran, all picking sides. And of course, Russia, right? They're picking sides and they're not picking our side, are they? And that's if you just assume that the world is capable of creating the same amount of energy that it's been. Once again, if you want to be frightened, you can always look up about the energy cliff and peak oil. And peak oil was a big thing, like, 15 years ago. But it's still a thing, especially if you follow the SRS Rocco report talking about peak oil. And we do see this is a fact. The return on investment for oil is going down every year. It takes more dollars to make a barrel of oil every year. And that can only happen so much before bad things happen, because it's the most important thing in your life. And that is also, I have to tie it all into silver because that's my thing. But you got to remember how energy intensive these metals are. And once you have a piece of silver, once you have the silver, all the energy expenditures already happen. And now it's like you have energy locked into this thing. And it's very, very useful in a lot of different ways. And it's money. It's money. And don't let anyone tell you that it's not money, okay? Let me explain something. 1/3 of the world still doesn't have internet, okay? So I understand the case for Bitcoin, and I like Bitcoin. In fact, I think I'm going to be buying more Bitcoin at these lower prices, but I'm buying silver first. And all those places, the 1/3 of the world where there's still not internet, silver's money. So you can chew on that. It might not be in vogue. It might not be like the cool trend right now, but it's coming back. You'll see. Here we have unrelated news, but this is just too interesting to ignore. This is also from the Epoch Times. Epoch Times writes, popular athletic clothing brands have high levels of hormone disrupting chemical BPA. The watchdog group gets cut off. Sports bras and athletic shirts made by some major global sports brands were found to contain dangerous levels of estrogen mimicking bisphenol, a commonly known BPA, posing a considerable risk to people's health, according to legal notices sent by the Center of Environmental Health. BPA, an endocrine disrupting chemical that upsets the body's functioning through blocking or mimicking hormones, is linked to developmental health problems, mostly for young children. For adults, studies have found that high levels of chemicals results in heart problems, while experts have connected BPA to obesity, diabetes, ADHD, and other ailments. Oh my God. With more research pending for definitive conclusions. This is terrifying. The CEH has sent legal notices to Athleta, Pink, Asics, North Face, Brooks, All in Motion, Nike, Fila. Regards to sports bras, the North Face, Brooks, Mizuno, Athleta, New Balance, Reebok for its activewear shirt collection. Testing conducted on branded clothing show that individual wearers were exposed to 22 times the safe limit as permitted under California law. So please do, I won't read you the whole article, but I mean, this should concern everyone. I encourage you to find this article for yourself, share it with your friends. This is good to know. And it makes me question, I do like those quick dry type shirts. And am I contaminating myself with BPA every time I wear one? Here we have a tweet from Reddit. And this user is just letting us know that PSLV bought a bunch of silver today. PSLV is a closed-ended mutual fund that exists entirely in physical silver. Today, 400,000 ounces are off the market, locked up in PSLV, not for sale. It's an ETF where you buy and hold. This user writes, squeeze harder, 400,000 ounces of physical off the market for October 17th. Silver total for PSLV is now at 166 million ounces. All right, next up, we got, excuse me. Next up, we do have another Reddit post here. And this is from the Meme Lord. Silver Meme Lord writes, Comex Silver Countdown Estimate. So he has a tool here. This calculates when the Comex Silver will run out. It looks like a 1 year period. The highest vault amount from the past and the current day are used in the calculation. During this time period, a burn rate is calculated. And then it is applied to the current day to get a rough estimate. And so we have an estimated burn rate of 1,900 ounces per day. That's how much is a normal day, I guess, being taken off the registered. And if we continued at that pace, we would have only 205 days of silver left with the estimated date, the 5th. What's the 5th? January, February, March, April, May 10th. May 10th would be the last day there would be any silver left. And it makes sense that they do it this way, but I would remind people there's days when 1 million ounces, 1.5 million ounces is taken out of the registered, and someone that had the money could go and buy it all at once because it's not really that much. We did calculate that it was about $3,400 per member of Wall Street Silver. This truly might be some of the last days you're going to buy silver at a reasonable price. I do believe that it will not be on the unaffordium side, that it will be on the unobtainium side. That's what I picked. Here we have a pretty sweet meme from Stonk Brothers. He says, "Hi, I need a wake-up call." It's like at a hotel. And she says, 74% of silver is out of the vault. Oh, that's good. And we do have a very special day today. I've been waiting. I should have started off the show with this. This is very exciting. Guys, we did finally crack the 40 million ounce threshold in the Comex. Ditch the deep state, our favorite user writes, registered silver bleeds 1,300,000 ounces, or 3.2. And now we're down to only 38.8 million ounces. Down 111 million ounces since the start of the squeeze. BRICS registered is down 16% in 1 day. Gold vaults too. Gold is down 109,000 ounces out of registered. And here in the chart, you can see very clearly a very significant downward trend in the registered silver. And you do also need to know, just keep in mind that there's other silver that are in these vaults, but it's not really for sale. It could be maybe at the right price, or maybe it's big tech companies that need their coffers full of silver for the upcoming shortage that's possible. One user here writes, remember the 5th of November. Let's go. So I bet we are picking the 5th of November as the next Silver Raid day, and I will 100% be participating in that. It's my main objective right now, is just accumulating silver. I'm all in on silver, guys. I'm so far all in on silver. Let me tell you about this. Let me get on the big screen here. That's not the big screen. Here's the big screen. I'm all in on silver bullion. I have bars, I have coins, I have junk silver, I have little statues, I have constitutional silver, I have silver eagles, I have I have silver shot. I have weird, ugly Easter bunny silver bars and silver rounds. I have silver. I honestly have some silver. And I am surprised. I never thought this would happen. I just didn't think it was possible. I actually have a little bit of silver that I don't know where it came from. And that's pretty freaking amazing to me, because I have a really strong memory of every time that I bought silver. I am so deep into silver mining stocks right now. It's like 80% of my portfolio. Silver mining stocks. And I got in at a really good time. So I don't think that I'm down. Even if I am down, it's only just a little bit, because I bought at a serious bottom. I think that was around like 2018. And now I have this silver show that I'm doing too. So that makes me all in on silver. And that is the pun. Silver, psycho silver, means more than one thing. But this is how much I believe in it. I'm all in, baby. Okay, next up. But we have a funny meme here. This is from Reddit, and it turned out to be true, so that made it extra funny. Here we have This is bulls over the weekend. And it was true. The bulls really did get warmed up here. Let's check this meme out. Okay, I wonder if there's any sound on this. I better keep talking. Oh, there we go. We got sound. Oh, don't tell me it's going to go slow on me now. I don't even have that many tabs open. Come on. Let me close some tabs so we can see this meme. Draining my RAM. Let's try this again. Oh, darn it. I thought that was pretty funny. Let's see if we have any interesting comments about this too. This user writes, "Don't show them the part where they get slaughtered." And the comments are always worth it, guys. That is the happy ending, the next user writes. The next top comment writes, "Drink the beer, you son of a bitch." This user writes, "What the fuck did I just watch? Prepping the bull. That's gonna be delicious," one guy writes. Pretty good stuff. Thank you, Wall Street Silver. Here we have another post from Reddit. And I was wondering if they were talking about me. This is the permabearer. LMAO, Japan took 30 years to recover. Has alerts set for Michael Berry's tweets before he deletes them. Praying for the end of the world. He said, "Bitcoin is literally a Ponzi scheme. I say some of these things. We're all going to be forced to eat the bugs soon. This time is different. Portfolio is 10% cash and 90% SPY puts." And here's me. "If you don't own gold or silver, you're gonna be poor. This time is different." Here's what I'm trying to get better at using these sounds. I have some good ones, but I forget to do it. Here's a good one.
He died swallowing his own vomit. Great.
I need the right opportunity. All right, next up. And here, okay, this is what I was referring to earlier. And we have an article from the Market Insider right here. And the Market Insider writes, let's go. The oil market is worried Biden could release another 100 million barrels of crude from the strategic reserves, analysts say. The oil market is worried that further releases from the strategic petroleum reserve could add pressure to prices. They mean down pressure, right? She told CNBC on Monday that Biden's administration could release another 100 million barrels. The White House's existing plans to release 180 million barrels of oil are nearing their conclusion. So it's kind of like a done deal, or what? Okay. Investors are worried that the U.S. could flood the market with even more oil from the strategic petroleum reserves. This is such a bad idea, guys.
Uh-oh, retard alert. Retard alert, class.
What's it for? To just have cheaper oil going into the elections? They're called strategic reserves. That's like emergency. Why would he? And at the same time, we're just in disagreement with, we needed India. We needed Saudi Arabia. It's supposed to be the petrodollar. So it's just a problem on all fronts. I don't know how this can't possibly turn out well. But why not? My next question is, why aren't we opening up the sites to drill more oil here in the U.S.? Biden's first order of business was to shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. And now we're in this big, I guess we're not feeling pain yet, but what happens when we finally do feel some pain, right? But a lot of people...
Uh-oh, retard alert, class.
To heal, we must remember. It's hard times to remember.
Don't forget, he shut down the Keystone XL. We're going green, guys. I guess we'll know. At some point we'll know in hindsight if it was the right call or not. Here's a tweet from the Great Marty. Translation: "We are bankrupt," is what he's responding to. Breaking Market News writes, Credit Suisse is said to be starting the sale of its U.S. asset management team. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. It sounds like they're piecing out their business. Okay, here's a really important. This is from Don Duret. I recommend following this account. He is one of the top guys about gold and silver mining stocks, and he has a really excellent website. And his takes, not only just on gold and silver, but he writes a lot of interesting stuff about all of life in general. I do recommend following. He writes MMT in action. It's the elephant in the room. Bank of Japan owns more than 2/3 of Japan's 10-year notes. So they took a bunch of money and took it from the left pocket and put it into the right pocket, and it's kept the yields low. But we're all learning in real time, like what is the actual consequences? And I'm just asking myself, how is it not inflation? It must be inflation. That's the only logical conclusion. Even if it's just inflation via the fact that these banks are just going to continue to take more and more risky loans, right? And they all get built into derivatives. This is really messy stuff to understand. But one thing I do know is this is not sound economics. And here, just I'll just read you the headline real quick. This is from RT, who's had all kinds of excellent journalism. They do actual journalism at RT. It says the U.S. recession forecast hits 100%. According to Bloomberg, an economic downturn is near certain within the next 12 months. I thought we were already in an economic downturn. And according to a model built by economists, the U.S. economy is 100% certain to enter into recession in the next 12 months, according to an economic model devised by 2 Bloomberg economists. And they run it based on 13 unspecified financial indicators. This is what they said on Monday. What's even worse is the apparently inevitable downturn might come even sooner than that. The model returned a 73% chance that it would hit within 11 months and a 25% chance that it would hit within 10. I thought we were already in it. Okay, but what I do take away from this is that they are signaling to the public that yes, it will be a recession, and yes, it's going to be really nasty. And here, I just wanted to remind you real quick, or give you notice that one of the most interesting and intelligent and hardworking researcher that helps everyone out in the silver space, I just know this is a guy everyone really looks up to, and he does the heavy lifting. He speaks in financial language. He pours through the data. So this is he's a data-driven researcher and analyst, sometimes a little tough to understand, but he's been covering the silver manipulation for like 20 years. Here on Silver Seek, he is asking you to help the silver movement, and I'm gonna be doing this myself. He's asking us to write a letter and to send it to all these different what are they? These are the 5 commissioners that are in charge of the commodity trading futures, and we have their emails. And he's written you the letter, and I'm sure while I read through it, it's worded in a way that is most effective because of what he knows and how to speak to them. And he's asking that you take this letter and you copy it and you forward it to these 5 email addresses to help maybe get these people to take some action on the very blatant manipulation that we see in the silver market. So I'm going to be doing it, and I hope you join me in doing that too. And here I kind of buried the lead. This is probably the most important piece of news that I saw all day. This is according to The Citizen, but I did see it in other websites. They write that Saudi Arabia expresses desire to join the BRICS family. It says President Cyril has confirmed that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has expressed a desire to join Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the BRICS family. The president concluded in his state visit to the kingdom, he's confident that both countries have cemented their continued bilateral cooperation and consolidated their strategic partnership. This is bad news for the U.S. I cannot overstate. This really is the death of the dollar right here, 100%. We might have something that we'll still call the dollar after this is all said and done, but it'll be completely different. This is a whole different order of things in the world where it's no longer dollar dominance, and they're calling it a multipolar world, and I understand that. But if we're losing allies like this, it'll still be unipolar. It'll be unipolar, but just not our polar. It'll be their polar, because don't forget, I do understand this is an important point. The U.S. and our allies, especially in Europe, they account for 80% of the global economic activity, but that doesn't mean that we have 80% of the resources. And who knows when things get shaken up and they come to be valued differently? What if energy and commodities and all the stuff that you use in everyday life stopped being so cheap and became really expensive. Well, then who would really be holding the cards? All right, here's an interesting article I got from, I never seen this website before. This is a pretty cool website. I don't even know how to say it. Al Arabia News. They write, soaring dollar leaves food piled up in ports as world hunger grows. Food importers from Africa to Asia are scrambling for dollars to pay their bills as a surge in the U.S. currency drives prices even higher for countries already facing historic global food crisis. Havoc, the iron-fisted reign of the dollar. And you see why they're so eager to set up another system where they're not beaten so much. In Ghana, importers are warning about shortages in the run-up to Christmas. Thousands of containers loaded with food recently piled up in the ports of Pakistan, while private bakers in Egypt raised bread prices after some flour mills ran out of wheat because it was stranded at customs. Around the world, countries that rely on food imports are grappling with the destructive combination of high interest rates, soaring dollar, and elevated commodity prices, eroding their power to pay for goods that are typically priced in greenback. This is real. This is real. Okay, next up. Here's another. This is all important news. This is from the same website too. Saudi Arabia and South Africa signed 11 agreements. So now you have Saudi Arabia coordinating with South Africa after they've already made it known that they're interested in joining the BRICS. Let me see if I can center this a little better. Saudi Arabia and South Africa have signed 11 agreements to boost energy, water, green hydrogen, waste diversion, logistics. The deals were made at the South Saudi African Investment Forum in Jeddah, which was organized by the King's Ministry of Investment and was attended by the South African President Cyril. I think we got the point on that one. I don't want to linger on that too long. Here we had a funny tweet from Dave Portnoy. Portnoy writes, "Hey Elon, can you please fix these bots on this piece of shit platform you got tricked into buying? I'm being botted to death." Aren't we all being fucking botted to death? Elon writes, "I do have a plan." And here's the response from Dave Rubin. He says, "It's weird how much worse Twitter has gotten even in the last few weeks. It used to fake the fakeness, but now it barely tries." Yeah, it's just blatantly fake now, isn't it? Here we have a tweet from Ponzi Finance. Ponzi Finance writes, "Earth has a central bank pandemic. There are about 225 globally, plus World Bank, IMF, BIS, and the financial superstate, destroying fiat currencies, people's purchasing power, and enslaving them into perpetual debt servitude. If not occupied, humanity will be occupied forever." I think that it is that serious, and I don't really think that's an overstatement. That is what my channel is about, and I know that kind of statement could get some pushback, but I love to study power, and I love to study economics, and I'm not like financially sophisticated as a lot of these guys in this space, but I've learned a lot about other things, and I do study history and I study power, and I do think that it is that dark. That is everything that I've learned, and my inspiration for wanting to start this kind of a channel is I have a different take on all this. I've studied power quite a bit, and I do think that it's pretty dark. And so the real question, and here's something to consider. I don't necessarily think that it's entirely that a handful of men in a smoky room somewhere are actually deciding they're like, we're controlling the world and this is how we're going to do it. I don't think that it's working like that. But I do think that central banks and money are in such a position of power, and that because people can be corrupted by unlimited power, that it simply just follows that they do collect. They collect an asymmetrical amount of power, so much that at a certain point, this is what I always say, at a certain point, it's not about money. Banks don't care about money. It's about control. And soon to be, we're about to find this all out. It's about the natural resources. And the natural resources and the ability to produce has been devalued in such a way that someone like Bill Gates can literally buy all the farmland. Food should be fairly priced and land should be fairly priced in the sense that there's no way that just one person from the tech sector can go out and buy all the copper mines in the world. If that's what happened, that just tells me that the copper mines were not fairly valued. But even if, I suppose it's a good thing. Even if someone did have the dollar amount and they could quite easily, this goes for silver. Someone out there has plenty of money to buy all the silver that's available out there in the world. But at least as people, when we do hold on to resources like that, we have the ability to say, no, it's not for sale. Not at this price, not at any price. And I just don't mean that about silver. I just mean that about hopefully a lot of these mines would say no. Hopefully a lot of these agricultural producers would say no, but they lose their ability to say no because of the position that the banks put them in. And we did see the headlines that there's kamikaze drones flying over Ukraine now. There's a picture of one of those drones in Ukraine. Oh, they were shooting at it. And here's a little clip. There's probably music on this, isn't there? Is this music going to get me in trouble? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Very, very intense. Very intense. But that is a thing. Kamikaze drones in use in Ukraine. What else we got here? We're about to wrap this up. Over the weekend, there was huge protests in France. Again, protesting the cost of living, price of energy. They're feeling the strain of the dollar milkshake down in France. And the last thing, this is my last post. This is our last piece of news for the evening. I did find this really interesting article I wanted to share with you over here. I'll read you the most important part. Or let's go to the chart. Here's the chart. Let's go to the chart. Okay, so this is a chart. Consumers living paycheck to paycheck in the last 3 months. You can see that people earning less than 50K, 80% of them are paycheck to paycheck. Between 50K and 100K, 60% of them are paycheck to paycheck. Above $100,000 income, 50% of them are living paycheck to paycheck. This is crazy. 150 to 200K, 40% living paycheck to paycheck. And lastly, people earning over $200,000 in income per year, 35% of them are living paycheck to paycheck. This is the dark psychology of money. This is the impulsivity that we're taught to harbor. This is how banks consolidate their power. People could be investors, building things, building their own economies, building their own businesses, building wealth like they say, generational wealth, building generational wealth for their family. But people get so stuck into materialism and trying to keep up with one another. And you do get this whole dopamine, serotonin hit from spending money. You're bombarded with advertisements. Attention spans are shrinking. There's all these moving pieces, and it really is. It's the dark psychology of money. These people with these higher incomes, if they had better financial education, would actually be participating in building the better world that they all hope for, because it's you that builds that world. You build that world. It's not the government and their policy that builds a better world. You're supposed to do it. It's your job, not to empower banks and government to do it for you. They're never going to do it. Okay, very last chart. This was posted by Wall Street Silver, and it just simply shows here this light brown and beige. These are people that consider themselves middle class. This is what you consider what class do you believe that you belong to? Everybody thinks they're middle class. People making over here on the very bottom, over $170,000 a year. They're calling themselves middle class. And some of them, I guess, even responded that they're working class. Okay, guys. But you see all that brown and beige. Everybody wants to think of themselves as middle class. Even the super high income believe they're middle class. And the super low income, you have people making only between $20,000 and $30,000 a year. They think they're middle class. Very interesting. And I do wonder, I did reply to this tweet. I wonder if it's because they do believe that living paycheck to paycheck makes them middle class or working class, because you're probably not enjoying that much security in your life. How are you going to feel very secure if, like we saw these car payments, your fucking car payment is $1,000 a month? You're making all this income, but $1,000 a month. That's got to be such a sense of insecurity, even if you're earning a lot, that every time you open your bank account, these people are just like the rest of us. By the middle of the week or whatever, they're not even sure if they have enough paycheck to cover. Really interesting. And thank you for joining me today. I hope you did enjoy this episode. I am working every day to make this show better for you. And please leave me any type of suggestion you have to improve this show. And I do hope you're enjoying the content that I cover. And lastly, I do hope that today you are in good health. I want that for you truly. And if you're not in good health, I do hope that you get better very soon. And thank you for joining me. And we'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Psycho Silver. Take care.